Hello, and welcome to Generative AI and Open Educational Resources, Opportunities and Pitfalls. I'm DRC Hutchings, Instructional Design and Open Education Librarian at the University of Alaska, Anchorage. For simplicity's sake, I used the acronym OER in the title of this presentation. I want to be clear before we proceed, though, that the scope of this presentation goes beyond just OER, which are resources residing in the public domain or released under a license that allows everyone to use and repurpose them for free. My coverage will include OER, but also OER-related areas like open pedagogy and moving courses away from commercial materials in favor of zero-cost alternatives, regardless of how those alternatives are licensed. With that in mind, today I will introduce you to key concepts and hopefully inspire you to think about how and whether you might use generative AI, either directly in your own OER-related work or in the work you do supporting faculty who are working in the OER, textbook affordability, and open and pedagogy arenas. Let's get started. Generative AI tools present some exciting opportunities that I want to highlight before we move on to discussing issues and potential pitfalls. These are OER creation and adaptation, ZTC/OER adoption, incorporating the intersection of AI and OER into pedagogy, personalized learning, redefining textbooks, and opening AI. In the area of OER creation and adaptation, generative AI has the potential to create better OER materials in less time. There are a variety of AI tools that can be used to create first drafts of content that you can expand on, rework, and polish, edit or improve content authored by faculty or students. It can make material more concise, improve clarity, and edit for punctuation, spelling, and syntax. It also has the potential to bring in more consistency and style for multi-author works, which makes them more seamless to the reader. You can use AI to improve layout and book design, including applying consistent formatting throughout, recommending ideal image locations, and otherwise making your textbook look and feel more like a traditional textbook. It can translate works, and AI can assist with improving ADA accessibility of a work, since AI is improving automated captioning and accessibility checkers. It can also draft image alt text. I want to emphasize that the uses I described in the last slide aren't just for creating OER from scratch. Generative AI tools can be used to modify, supplement, or update existing OER to better suit the needs of our students. And these uses for AI tools aren't just for textbooks. AI can be helpful for creating or improving ancillary materials to surround core course materials. This includes test questions, interactive elements, simulations, lecture notes, slides, and more. Generative AI can also facilitate the process of adopting OER and other zero-cost materials. Transitioning courses to having zero textbook costs, or ZTC, whether using OER or other kinds of no-cost materials, is simply time-consuming. Any reduction in the time it takes to redesign a course around new materials helps more faculty make the switch in more courses. I mentioned the development of ancillary materials on the last slide. Faculty commonly cite the lack of ancillary materials as a barrier for OER or ZTC adoption, and AI has the potential to reduce that barrier when used to assist with their creation. In addition, AI can provide ideas for and draft detailed course outlines, unit-level learning outcomes, assignments and assessments, and other elements that come into course redesign. To overcome the challenge of leaving behind a commercial publisher's homework system, which is another common barrier for faculty, AI can help replace some elements, including personalized learning components, which I will discuss further in an upcoming slide. The intersection of OER and AI creates a number of learning opportunities for students. They can hone essential critical thinking and information literacy skills that are universally applicable beyond AI, while also developing AI literacy, that is, the skills and competencies needed to effectively use and evaluate AI tools and content. A number of assignments are possible. Faculty creating, editing, or updating an OER textbook together with students using AI tools is a great open pedagogy project. This allows students to participate in meaningful learning where their voices are heard and the work has impact. Not only are they mastering content and learning to be an active member of their field, they also have a structured opportunity to use AI tools. If that seems too heavy a lift for your faculty, consider an assignment where students apply what they learn in a course while also developing AI literacy. For example, students could use a generative AI tool to draft or update language for a section of an OER book chapter. Then the students evaluate the generated texts by reflecting on what the tool included and excluded in their draft, in the draft of revisions. Or they could provide their own edits to the generated text to improve it. By incorporating the use of AI in their courses, faculty help to reduce the AI literacy divide among students by ensuring everyone has the opportunity to learn essential AI skills they may not otherwise. If your faculty are not feeling confident about working with students to create or modify OER or using AI with them, suggest they consider approaching this as a co-learning opportunity where they learn together with their students. Commercial homework systems often contain personalized learning elements, which can be very effective in helping students make academic progress. Generative AI can be used to personalize learning as well. If you have a faculty if your faculty are lamenting losing homework systems when they switch to OER or ZTC materials, encouraging the use of AI to personalize learning may help some. Generative AI tools exist that can provide detailed, immediate feedback to students as they work through material or apply what they learned. They can be used as a virtual tutor, supporting students as they master the material through a sort of conversation. They can provide unique data-driven learning plans, readings, or activities for each student according to their performance or preferences. And they can be used to create immersive learning environments. Redefining textbooks is nothing new. It is already common for courses to forego a textbook in favor of a curated reading list of one kind or another. Many OER textbooks are purely digital, and some more closely resemble websites with interactive elements than they do traditional textbooks. However, generative AI presents an all-new way to receive educational content that removes static readings altogether. Generative textbooks. Here's an example from David Wiley. Here, the faculty member provides students with a series of prompts to use as they engage with ChatGPT. The learning experience is a dynamic conversation and allows the student to do as much or as little as is needed to grasp the concept and satisfy their curiosity by asking follow-up questions. Let's look at the bigger picture beyond the work that you do with faculty, opening up AI. The best of generative AI is currently behind paywalls, which prevents people with limited financial resources from having the same kinds of access and receiving the same AI benefits as people with more resources. Universities have the opportunity to ensure free and equitable access to generative AI tools for all of our students. This could be done by licensing existing generative AI tools for students to use for free, or it could be leading or supporting efforts to develop openly available or otherwise openly licensed AI tools. Such tools could be for general use by anyone, anywhere, or they could be trained on place-based resources to facilitate creation of locally relevant content. Given the role that libraries play in open education and textbook affordability initiatives, I see a clear opportunity for us to advocate for this where it makes sense. Now let's consider some critical issues and pitfalls related to the intersection of OER and AI. I'll talk about access, quality of content, amplified inherent bias, copyright and ownership, and related attribution, and a few others. Some of these issues and pitfalls are relevant to any use of AI, and I'll try to focus on how these issues specifically impact OER-related work. Access is a core principle of open education and textbook affordability. The issue of access in the context of AI is multifaceted. First, there are access concerns in terms of infrastructure. Equitable access to high-speed internet is still an issue, especially for rural students, as well as students with limited financial resources. Earlier, I said that generative AI can aid with making materials accessible. Well, on the flip side, AI tools can themselves be inaccessible for people experiencing disabilities. And the content they generate may be inaccessible as well, even when you tell it to make its generated content accessible. The cost of tools presents an access issue as well. As I said earlier, the best of generative AI is currently fee-based. Just like with commercial textbooks, some students can afford them and some cannot. Students who have more access to AI tools and have more opportunities to develop their AI literacy receive more of the benefits of using AI right now and in their future careers. This is the AI literacy divide, and it is layered on top of the digital divide that we continue to grapple with. When selecting AI tools for students or faculty to use, we need to keep this in mind. We also need to keep in mind that the access we have to a tool may change at any time. So caution must be used when relying on free tools that may suddenly become fee-based, particularly when a tool is used as part of a class assignment. As we have heard many times in the mini conference thus far, there's an issue with the variable quality of AI-generated content. Depending on the materials used to train it and the prompts you use, outputs can be inaccurate, outdated, or biased information. AI can also have hallucinations, literally making things up. Therefore, a major pitfall is relying on generated content without critically evaluating it, or failing to fix content that will be used or shared elsewhere. Generative AI cannot replace the subject matter expertise of a faculty member, or the instructional design expertise of experienced faculty members or instructional designers. It is a tool, not a complete solution. And I want to add here that there is a potential for a bit of a downward spiral to occur in terms of accuracy and quality of AI-generated content. This is because when humans aren't improving AI-generated texts before putting them back out into the world, that problematic content is used to train future AI, and so on and so forth. The problem of inherent biases are not specific to AI-generated content. It can also occur in commercial textbooks and OER materials, among many other types of materials. However, generated AI not only perpetuates human biases, but also amplifies it. The bias in AI can come from the content that was used to train the AI and the decision-making algorithms created by the developers, including the weight that they give to particular data. Navigating licenses like Creative Commons licenses and copyright, as in who owns rights to a work, are central to all kinds of OER-related work. Questions of ownership and copyright related to generative AI are hot topics. Failing to understand the AI and copyright landscape is a major pitfall when using AI for OER. So who owns the content that AI generates? Can you openly license OER that you develop using AI? Before I continue, know that the generative AI copyright landscape is still developing based on evolving legal understandings. In fact, the US Copyright Office will be issuing more specific guidelines within the next few months. Okay, so let's talk about what we know now. In order to be copyrighted in the US, a work must be creative, original, and authored by a human. Note that this means that human-made prompts are copyrightable. We know that generative AI tools are trained on copyrighted works, as well as public domain. That is, they use what they glean from copyrighted works to generate content for you. This is currently considered fair use of those copyrighted materials, but that may change. And we know that generative AI may give you content that would be considered plagiarized. For example, a recent study from CopyLeaks, which is a company in the business of finding AI-generated content, found that around 60% of ChatGPT 3.5 outputs contained some form of detectable plagiarized content. So is AI-generated content copyrightable? It depends. In the US, content solely created by AI is not, because it isn't human-created or creative. It is considered to be in the public domain. In works that contain both human and AI-generated elements, only the human-created components are copyrightable. If AI-generated content has been modified by human creativity sufficient to be considered a derivative work, then it is copyrightable. So how much of a, excuse me, how much must the work be changed to be a derivative work and therefore copyrightable? It would seem not much. According to the US Copyright Office, there must be, quote, some minimal degree of creativity, end quote, in the work, and creativity is broadly defined. This matters because you can only apply Creative Commons licenses to a work that you have copyright for. The Creative Commons licenses are the most common way for identifying work as OER. Ultimately, regardless of the copyright status of the work, it is up to us to ensure that all work is being properly attributed and to consistently model this for students. The humans who distribute AI-generated content are responsible for that content, certainly ethically and likely legally as well. A little more on attribution. This is closely related to copyright and ownership, and most systems aren't just trained on copyrighted resources. They don't even cite those sources for you. Some select tools do provide citation, but given the lack of transparency about what has gone into creating the large language models AI tools use, it's possible that they aren't citing everything that they've used. This means that you could be generating content based on copyrighted materials that you cannot cite to create a work that you will then put forth as OER. This goes against the values of librarianship and open education, and it's a big thing to grapple with. Individuals will certainly have different feelings about this and have to come to their own conclusions. Apologies for not switching over my slide there. Moving forward to other issues. So AI-generated content lacks cultural and linguistic diversity when the tools are used for writing and editing. It homogenizes content. Data security and privacy are also concerns. AI tools use a variety of data to train its models without consent. It's important to understand that anything you put online could potentially be scraped and included in a language model for AI right now. And certainly any material you put into an AI tool can become part of its knowledge base. Never put personal or sensitive information into any AI tool. And lastly, failing to declare the use of AI can have professional ramifications. If you use AI in any way for your work, be sure to include some sort of statement that exactly describes how you used it, the specific tool you used, including which version, and any other information that you might think is relevant. So many of these pitfalls can be avoided by faculty using their voice and expertise to modify AI-generated content before it's shared out, critically evaluating content for themselves and with their students, especially when the end product will be shared out to others, modeling ethical AI use for students, including clearly stating how AI was used when developing or sharing any content. Pitfalls can also be avoided by trying out generative AI tools. So experiment with them and encourage faculty to do the same. And lastly, by staying informed on AI-related issues as things are changing rapidly. Be open to revisiting ideas and tools to see whether they are more useful for your needs later on, even if they aren't useful right away. Whether AI excites you or scares you, whether you can't wait to get started using AI yourself, or maybe you already are, or whether you'd rather not ever use them. Ignoring or avoiding AI is also a pitfall. For better or worse, the common perception is that AI is here to stay, and it will only continue to shake up virtually every aspect of our work and lives. OER work is no exception. I've included these resources for you. They include specific resources that I use to develop this presentation, as well as some helpful readings. And you'll have access to these slides after. I'll provide the link in just a moment in the chat. But I want to thank you for coming. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. We do have a few minutes for that. Let me grab this link for you. Okay, and now let me see what I can. Oh, you need access. Apologies. I will get you that access as soon as we're done here. If you want to grab that link and hang on to it, I will make sure that I change the access for you. Okay, and so I'll start with the questions that are in the Q&A and then try looking through the chat as well. So Molly says, so I still feel kind of queasy putting someone else's OER work into an AI machine in order to ask it to create assignments or do other changey things. Should I? I've heard that it's important to teach students to pay attention to the kinds of data they are putting into these systems. Is it okay for us to just slap an entire text into an AI machine and call it good? Maybe they are all already there. I just feel uneasy about taking someone else's work and putting it into AI. So I think that if we're not already at the point, I think we're getting to the point where virtually anything that's publicly viewable online is likely to be in AI models in some way. Again, if we're not there yet, I think soon. So if it's already out there and publicly available, I feel like it's already in the machine, right? As far as like ethically and how you're feeling about that, I really can't answer that. I think that a lot of these things really come down to you reflecting on your own values and your own beliefs, and also to encourage other people to do the same. I think there's a lot of gray area that still happens. So I'm sorry I don't have a clear answer there for you, Molly, but hopefully that helps. Certainly, if this is something, if you're putting someone's work into the machine that's not publicly available online, or that includes personally identifiable information, that sort of thing, I would say definitely not put that in there. What tools do you like for generating ancillaries? So Kristen, I don't have specific tools to recommend. I intentionally tried to focus very much on an overview. So I don't have those to recommend, but that would be a good thing for you to move on to explore after the session. And would you please copy that URL into the chat? Bren, if you could let me know which URL you were referring to, I could be happy to do that. And Elizabeth says, can ChatGPT, etc., get through academic journal paywalls? I don't know the specifics of that. Okay, and then I'll come to our chat here. Let's see if I can find some others. And feel free, I don't know if you guys are able to verbalize, but if you are, you're more than welcome to chime in with a question verbally while I try to explore the chat to find questions. So far I'm seeing a lot of really great questions, or excuse me, contributions to the dialogue within the chat, but not so many questions specifically. Amal, what do you think of the influence of AI on human individual originality and creativity, and how to convey this idea to our students? We're coming up on time, so I don't know that I have time to answer that, but I think that that is still a question to be answered. I think that's something that's going to happen as we go through time. Kristen said you cannot unmute. Okay. And all right, questions about that. If someone copy and pastes the article into ChatGPT, etc., does that essentially feed the text into the LLM? Yes, potentially. From most of what I've seen, they're not necessarily saying that's the case, but we should probably assume that it is the case. Okay. It looks like we've gone through those questions. All right. Well, thank you again for coming. Appreciate you being here, and look forward to continuing this conversation as we explore this landscape moving forward.